understand the stakes. I do. My place is in the classroom.
The world is counting on you.
This might be very hard for you to understand. Some people are not good at this. No, you are. You do great. Zero G in 5 hours. He's not grown in yet. I'm Grace. I'm gonna call you Rocky. Thumbs up.
Imagine waking up, alone, in the middle of space. No memory, no idea who you are. And slowly, terrifyingly, you realize you might be the last hope for humanity. This is not just a mission. This is a desperate gamble to save an entire planet from extinction. Welcome to the story of Project Hail Mary. Globe showing Europe Africa Chapter 1. A Dying Sun. The story begins not in space, but on Earth. Scientists around the world discover something impossible. The sun is slowly losing its energy. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but enough to trigger a catastrophic chain reaction. Temperatures begin to drop. Crops fail. Oceans start freezing. Human civilization is quietly heading toward extinction. This mysterious phenomenon is caused by a strange microorganism later named astrophage, a life form that feeds directly on stellar energy. And the worst part? It's spreading. Test Tube Chapter 2. The Reluctant Hero. Enter Ryland Grace, played by Ryan Gosling. He's not a typical hero. He's a middle school science teacher. Before that, he was a scientist, but a disgraced one. Grace gets pulled into a top-secret global project led by Stratt, portrayed by Sandra Hüller. Stratt is ruthless, focused. She doesn't care about politics, only survival. And she has a plan. Rocket Chapter 3. The Impossible Mission. Scientists discover one star, Tau Ceti, that is not affected by astrophage. Why? That's the only clue humanity has. So they design a desperate mission. Send a spacecraft across interstellar space to find out why Tau Ceti is safe. The project is called Project Hail Mary because just like in football, it's a last-second, desperate throw. Brain Chapter 4. Memory Loss Mystery. Back to the present. Ryland Grace wakes up inside a spaceship. 2 crewmates, dead beside him. He doesn't remember anything. Not his name. Not his mission. Only through fragments, flashbacks. His memory slowly comes back. This storytelling technique creates tension, mystery, and emotional depth. Alien Chapter 5. First Contact. Then, something unbelievable happens. Grace detects another spaceship. But it's not human. Inside, he meets an alien, a creature later named Rocky. This moment changes everything. Instead of fear, they choose communication. Instead of war, they choose cooperation. Handshake Chapter 6. Friendship Beyond Worlds. Rocky is not just an alien. He's also a scientist. Just like Grace, his planet is facing the same extinction. Different star, same astrophage problem. Now, two beings from different worlds, with completely different biology, language, and perception, must work together. They build a language. They share knowledge. They become friends. This is the emotional core of the story. Microscope Chapter 7: Science as Survival. The film dives deep into science, astrophage reproduction, energy transfer, interstellar travel. But it never feels boring, because every discovery equals survival. Every failure equals extinction. Warning Chapter 8: The Sacrifice. Grace discovers a solution. A microorganism that can destroy astrophage. He can save Earth. But there's a catch. If he returns to Earth, Rocky's planet will die. If he saves Rocky, Earth might not survive. This is the ultimate moral dilemma. Broken Heart Chapter 9: The Choice. Here lies the heart of the story. Grace was never a hero. He was afraid. He didn't even volunteer for the mission. But now, he chooses to go back. Not to Earth, but to save Rocky. Because friendship, because humanity, is bigger than survival. Milky Way Chapter 10: A New Meaning of Heroism. Grace doesn't become a hero by saving his own species. He becomes a hero by choosing empathy. The ending is bittersweet. He survives, but never returns home. Instead, he lives among aliens, teaching, learning, evolving. Performing Arts Themes Analysis. 1. Survival versus morality. Is saving your own species always the right choice? 2. Science and humanity. Science is not cold, it's emotional, human, and hopeful. 3. Loneliness and connection. Even in the vast emptiness of space, connection is possible. Clapperboard Cast Highlight: Ryan Gosling as Ryland Grace, Sandra Hüller as Eva Stratt, Milana Vayntrub. Movie Camera Final Thoughts. Project Hail Mary is not just a sci-fi film. It's a story about hope, friendship, sacrifice, and most importantly, what it truly means to be human. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Project Hail Mary, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon bell. Because more mind-blowing movie explanations are coming your way. Until then, stay curry. Clapperboard. Now it's time to explain psychological and suspense. What if you were forced to save the world? Not because you're brave, but because you had no choice, no glory, no backup, no way home. Just you, drifting in silence, surrounded by the infinite darkness of space. And somewhere out there, the answer to humanity's survival or its extinction. This is not a hero's story. This is the story of a man who became one by accident. Milky Way Chapter 1: The Cold Death of Earth. The film opens with a terrifying concept. Not fire, not explosion, but cold. A slow, silent, inevitable freezing of Earth. The sun, our eternal source of life, begins to dim. Unlike typical disaster movies, there's no chaos at first. Just data, numbers, calculations, and every scientist on Earth comes to the same horrifying conclusion. Humanity is running out of time. Microscope Chapter 2: The Discovery of Astrophage. Scientists identify a strange organism, astrophage, a microscopic life form that feeds on stars. It absorbs energy, multiplies, and spreads. It's not evil. It's not intelligent. It's just doing what life does. Survive. But in doing so, it threatens to destroy everything we know. Brain Chapter 3. A Broken Scientist. We meet Ryland Grace, played by Ryan Gosling. But unlike Script 1, here we focus on his psychology. Grace is not confident. He's not heroic. He's afraid. He avoids responsibility. He hides behind teaching kids instead of facing real-world problems. And yet, he's exactly the person humanity needs. Classical Building Chapter 4. Power Without Permission. Enter Eva Stratt, portrayed by Sandra Hüller. She represents a controversial idea. What if saving the world requires ignoring democracy? Stratt is given unlimited power. No laws. No rules. Her mission: save humanity at any cost, even if it means forcing people into missions they don't want, including Grace. Rocket Chapter 5. The Truth Behind the Mission. Unlike heroic narratives, Grace does not volunteer. He is forced. He is terrified. He tries to escape the responsibility. But ultimately, he is sent into space against his will. This completely flips the traditional hero trope. Puzzle Piece Chapter 6. Memory as a Storytelling Device. Grace wakes up with no memory. But this isn't just a plot trick. It's symbolic. His memory loss reflects his identity crisis. Who is he? A coward? A scientist? A hero? As his memories return, so does his purpose. Alien Chapter 7. The alien that redefines everything. Grace encounters an alien, Rocky. But instead of fear, the film explores curiosity. Rocky is not human-like. No face. No expressions. Completely different biology. Yet, he becomes the most human character in the story. Musical Notes Chapter 8. Language Beyond Words. One of the most fascinating aspects. Grace and Rocky communicate through science and sound. Mathematics becomes language. Music becomes communication. This shows a powerful idea. Intelligence is universal, even if language is not. Exploding Head Chapter 9. Parallel Extinction. Grace discovers something shocking. Rocky's planet is also dying. Different star. Same problem. This expands the story from save Earth to save life itself. Balance Scale Chapter 10. The Ethical Conflict. Here, the story becomes deeply philosophical. Grace now has two choices. Save Earth. Save Rocky's species. He cannot do both. This is not a scientific problem anymore. This is a moral dilemma. Collision Chapter 11. Redefining Heroism. In traditional stories, heroes save their own people. But Grace does something unexpected. He chooses compassion over instinct. He risks everything for a species that isn't his own. Shooting Star Chapter 12. Isolation and Acceptance. Grace never returns to Earth. He accepts his fate, but instead of despair, he finds meaning, teaching, learning, living among aliens. This is a completely different kind of ending. Not victory, not defeat, but transformation. Performing Arts Thematic Breakdown. Small Blue Diamond 1. Fear versus Courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's acting despite it. Small Blue Diamond 2. Control versus Freedom. Is it right to force someone to save the world? Small Blue Diamond 3. Identity. Are we defined by our past or our choices? Clapperboard Character Analysis. Adult Rocket Ryland Grace. A reluctant hero. represents human fear and growth. Adult briefcase Eva Stratt. Cold. Logical. Necessary evil. Alien Rocky. The soul of the story. Proof that humanity is not limited to humans. Movie camera cinematic style and experience. Non-linear storytelling. Flashback-driven narrative. Emotional plus scientific balance. The film keeps you thinking and feeling. Fire why this story is different. Most sci-fi movies focus on aliens invading Earth. But Project Hail Mary does the opposite. Humans connect with aliens to survive together. Clapperboard final message. At its core, this story asks one question. What does it mean to be human? Is it survival? Or is it empathy? Because sometimes, saving someone else is the only way to truly save yourself. If this perspective changed the way you see sci-fi movies, then don't forget to like, share, and subscribe bell. Because more deep, unique movie breakdowns are coming. And trust me, the next story might be even more mind-blowing. Now we explain the science and realism behind saving humanity. Movie. Project Hail Mary. What if everything you see in this movie is not just fiction? What if the science behind it is real enough to actually happen? A dying star. A microorganism that feeds on energy. A spaceship traveling across light years. Sounds impossible, right? But here's the truth. Every single concept in this story is rooted in real science. And today, we're not just explaining a movie. We're breaking down how close humanity actually is to a mission like Project Hail Mary. Microscope Chapter 1. Can the sun actually dim? In the movie, the sun starts losing energy. But is that even possible? In real life, stars like our sun operate through nuclear fusion. Hydrogen atoms fuse into helium, releasing enormous energy. This process is incredibly stable. So, can something interfere with it? Theoretically, yes. If an external factor could absorb or disrupt the energy output, it could reduce the brightness of a star. In the film, that role is played by astrophage. Petri dish Chapter 2. Is astrophage scientifically possible? Astrophage is a fictional organism, but its concept is inspired by real science. Extremophiles, organisms that survive extreme conditions. Energy-absorbing bacteria. Space-resistant microbes. Scientists have already discovered bacteria that can survive extreme heat, radiation, even vacuum-like conditions, so the idea of a space microorganism is not entirely impossible. High Voltage Chapter 3. Energy storage at extreme levels. One of astrophage's abilities. It can store massive amounts of energy. In reality, energy storage is one of humanity's biggest challenges. We use batteries, chemical storage, nuclear energy, but none of these come close to the efficiency shown in the film. If such a life form existed, it would revolutionize everything: space travel, power generation, technology itself. Rocket Chapter 4. Interstellar travel, reality versus fiction. The spacecraft in the movie travels to another star system. Distance, light years away. In real life, this is one of the biggest barriers. Even our fastest spacecraft would take backhand index pointing right thousands of years. So how does the movie solve this? By using astrophage as fuel. Shooting Star Chapter 5. Could we travel faster? Physics says nothing can travel faster than light, but we can approach it. If we had an energy source powerful enough, we could reach nearby stars in decades instead of centuries. Concepts like ion propulsion, nuclear fusion drives, antimatter engines are already being studied. The movie simply takes these ideas and pushes them to their limits. Brain Chapter 6. Human survival in deep space. Another critical question. Can humans survive long-term space travel? Problems include muscle loss, bone density reduction, radiation exposure. NASA studies show that even astronauts on the ISS face serious physical changes. Now imagine years in space. The film introduces hibernation pods. This concept is still experimental, but scientists are researching it for future missions. DNA Chapter 7. Memory loss, science or fiction? Grace wakes up with memory loss. Is this realistic? Partially, yes. Certain drugs or medical procedures can suppress memory, delay recall. In high-stress environments, the brain can also block memories. So, while dramatized, the concept has scientific grounding. Globe Showing Europe-Africa Chapter 8. Global Crisis Management. One of the most realistic aspects of the film. How humanity responds to crisis. A single leader, Stratt, takes control. Is that realistic? In extreme emergencies, governments often centralize power. Examples in history show wartime authority expansion, emergency laws, rapid decision-making. The film reflects this reality. Balance Scale Chapter 9. Ethics of Survival. Now we move beyond science into ethics. If humanity is dying, do rules still matter? Can you force people into missions, sacrifice a few to save billions? These are not fictional questions. They are real philosophical debates. Alien Chapter 10. Possibility of alien life. The movie introduces intelligent alien life. Is that realistic? Scientists believe the universe contains billions of galaxies, each with billions of stars. Statistically, life somewhere else is highly probable. But intelligent, communicative life, that's still unknown. Direct Hit Chapter 11. Scientific accuracy. Why it matters. Most sci-fi movies ignore science, but this story respects it. It explains concepts, builds logic, creates believable systems. That's why it feels real. Because it could be. Clapperboard. So far, we've explored the science of stars, the possibility of space organisms, the reality of interstellar travel. But this is just the beginning. Now we explain the hidden politics, power, and control behind saving humanity. Movie. Project Hail Mary. Globe Showing Europe-Africa Chapter 1. The beginning of global panic. At first, the crisis is invisible. The sun is dimming slowly. No explosions, no disasters, just data, quietly confirming that Earth is dying. Governments deny it. Media downplays it, because panic is dangerous. But when the truth finally comes out, the world changes overnight. Classical Building Chapter 2: Collapse of Normal Governance. Democracy works in normal situations, but what about extinction-level events? Elections take time, debates take time, decisions take time, and time is exactly what humanity doesn't have. So governments begin to lose control. Power structures weaken, and into that chaos steps one person. Adult Briefcase Chapter 3: The Rise of Absolute Authority. Eva Stratt, portrayed by Sandra Hüller, is given something unprecedented. Unlimited authority. No laws, no restrictions, no oversight. Her only mission: save humanity at any cost. Balance Scale Chapter 4: The Death of Ethics. Stratt begins making decisions that would be illegal under any normal system. Seizing resources from countries, forcing scientists into projects, ignoring international laws. But here's the question: is it wrong, or is it necessary? Because when survival is at stake, morality becomes flexible. Globe with Meridians Chapter 5: Global Cooperation or Forced Unity. The film shows nations working together. But is it truly cooperation, or is it pressure? Powerful countries control resources. Weaker nations are forced to comply. The illusion of unity hides a deeper truth. Control is not shared equally. Moneybag Chapter 6: Economic Breakdown. As the crisis worsens, food production drops, energy becomes unstable, markets crash, money loses meaning, because in a dying world, survival is the only currency. This creates a shift from backhand index pointing right wealth-based society to backhand index pointing right survival-based society. Brain Chapter 7: Control of Information. One of the most powerful tools in the film. Information. Governments don't reveal everything. Why? Because truth can cause chaos. If people know extinction is inevitable, society collapses faster. So information is controlled, filtered, managed, manipulated. Rocket Chapter 8: The Selection of the Crew. Now comes one of the most controversial parts: choosing who will go on the mission. This is not just science. This is politics. Who gets selected? The smartest? The strongest? The most obedient? And more importantly, who gets rejected? Fearful Face Chapter 9: Forced Sacrifice. Ryland Grace, played by Ryan Gosling, does not willingly join. He is forced. This reveals a dark truth. In extreme situations, individual freedom becomes irrelevant because the system prioritizes backhand index pointing right the survival of many over backhand index pointing right the rights of one. Fire Chapter 10: Power without accountability. Stratt operates without consequences. No court, no law, no opposition. This creates a dangerous situation. Absolute power. History has shown absolute power often leads to abuse. But in this case, is it abuse, or is it the only way? Globe showing Europe Africa Chapter 11: Who gets saved? Let's ask a brutal question. Even if the mission succeeds, does everyone survive, or only a part of humanity? The film doesn't directly answer this, but it hints at a reality. Not everyone can be saved, and decisions must be made. Crossed Swords Chapter 12: The Hidden Conflict. While the film focuses on science, there's an underlying conflict. Nations versus nations. People versus government. freedom versus survival. This silent conflict runs throughout the story. Puzzle Piece Chapter 13: The Psychological Impact of Control. What happens to people under extreme authority? Fear increases, trust decreases, obedience rises. Society becomes more controlled, but less human. Adult Rocket Chapter 14: The Human Cost. Behind every decision, there are sacrifices, families separated, scientists forced into missions, people losing their freedom. The mission is not just about saving Earth. It's about what humanity is willing to lose to survive. Balance Scale Chapter 15: The Moral Gray Zone. There are no clear heroes or villains. Stratt is not evil. Grace is not purely heroic. Everyone operates in a gray zone, because when extinction is near, right and wrong lose their meaning. Performing Arts Thematic Analysis. Small Blue Diamond: Power versus Responsibility. Who should control humanity's fate? Small Blue Diamond: Freedom versus survival. Is freedom still important when survival is uncertain? Small Blue Diamond: Ethics in Crisis. Do moral rules apply during extinction? Clapperboard Final Thought. Project Hail Mary is not just a sci-fi story. It's a warning, because one day, humanity might face a crisis like this. And when that day comes, the biggest question won't be, how do we save the world? It will be, backhand index pointing right, who gets to decide? Now it's time to explain existential crisis, meaning of life and the human condition. Project Hail Mary. What is the meaning of life? When life itself is about to end. If the sun dies, if Earth freezes, if every human story disappears, then what was the point of it all? Every dream, every love, every memory, gone. So tell me, does life still have meaning if it doesn't last forever? This is not a story about saving the world. This is a story about understanding why the world matters at all. Milky Way Chapter 1: The Universe Doesn't Care. The film quietly presents a terrifying truth. The universe is indifferent. Stars explode, planets die, galaxies collide. And none of it happens for a reason. There is no villain, no grand design, just physics. And in that vast, uncaring universe, human life is incredibly small. Brain Chapter 2: The Human Need for Meaning. Despite this, humans search for meaning. We create religion, science, philosophy. Why? Because the idea of a meaningless existence is unbearable. Ryland Grace, played by Ryan Gosling, represents this struggle. At the beginning, he avoids responsibility, because accepting responsibility means accepting meaning. Puzzle Piece Chapter 3: Identity Without Memory. When Grace wakes up without memory, he loses more than knowledge. He loses identity, because who are we without our past? Our memories define our fears, our values, our purpose. Without them, we are nothing but consciousness in a body. Chapter 4: Rebuilding the Self. As Grace's memories return, he slowly reconstructs himself. But here's the key idea. He is not becoming who he was. He is becoming someone new. This reflects a philosophical truth. Backhand index pointing right identity is not fixed. Backhand index pointing right, it is created through choices. Balance Scale Chapter 5. Freedom and Responsibility. Existential philosophy suggests we are free, but that freedom comes with responsibility. Grace initially rejects this. He doesn't want to choose. He doesn't want to decide, because choosing means accepting consequences. Alien Chapter 6. The Meaning of Connection. Then comes Rocky, an alien, completely different, and yet they connect. This challenges a core idea. Meaning does not come from the universe. It comes from relationships. Even in the emptiness of space, connection creates purpose. Handshake Chapter 7. Friendship as Existential Answer. Grace and Rocky's friendship is not just emotional. It's philosophical. It answers a deep question. Backhand index pointing right. If life has no inherent meaning, backhand index pointing right, can we create our own? And the answer is yes, through friendship, trust, sacrifice. DNA Chapter 8. Survival versus Purpose. At one point, the mission becomes simple. Survive. But survival alone is not enough, because living without purpose feels empty. Grace realizes this. He understands that backhand index pointing right, living is not the same as existing. Warning Chapter 9. The Fear of Death. Death is central to the story. Not sudden death, but inevitable extinction. This creates a different kind of fear. Not, will I die? But, will anything I do matter? Globe Showing Europe Africa Chapter 10. The Weight of Humanity. Grace carries the weight of Earth. Billions of lives. But here's the twist. This responsibility gives his life meaning. Without it, he was just a teacher avoiding his past. With it, he becomes something more. Brain Chapter 11. Choice defines meaning. At the climax, Grace faces a decision. Save Earth, or save Rocky's species. This is where existential philosophy reaches its peak. There is no correct answer, no universal rule, only choice. And that choice defines who he is. Broken Heart Chapter 12. Sacrifice and Self-Transcendence. Grace chooses sacrifice, not because he has to, but because he wants to. This is the highest form of meaning. Backhand index pointing right, choosing something greater than yourself. Shooting Star Chapter 13. Life Beyond Earth. Grace never returns home. Instead, he builds a new life. Different world. Different species. This shows something powerful. Backhand index pointing right meaning is not tied to location. Backhand index pointing right, it is tied to perspective. Person in Lotus Position Chapter 14. Acceptance. At the end, Grace accepts his reality. No regret, no fear, because he has found meaning, not in survival, but in his choices. Performing Arts Thematic Analysis. Small Blue Diamond 1. Absurdity of life. Life has no inherent meaning, and yet we seek it. Small Blue Diamond 2. Freedom of choice. We are free to choose, and that freedom defines us. Small Blue Diamond 3. Creation of meaning. Meaning is not found. It is created. Clapperboard Character as Philosophy. Adult Rocket Ryland Grace represents existential growth. From avoidance to acceptance. Alien Rocky represents connection beyond identity. Proof that meaning is universal. Movie Camera Final Thought. In the end, Project Hail Mary doesn't answer the question, what is the meaning of life? Instead, it shows us something deeper. Backhand index pointing right. Life has no meaning until we give it one.
Now we explain survival strategy and step-by-step breakdown of saving humanity. Globe showing Europe-Africa Phase 1, identifying the threat. Every survival strategy begins with one thing: understanding the enemy. In this case, the enemy is not a person. It's a phenomenon. The sun is losing energy. At first, this seems like a natural anomaly. But deeper analysis reveals something is actively draining it. This is where the discovery of astrophage changes everything. Microscope Phase 2, studying the enemy. You cannot defeat what you don't understand. Scientists begin analyzing astrophage. It absorbs energy. It reproduces rapidly. It travels between stars. This transforms the problem from backhand index pointing right. Why is the sun dimming? Backhand index pointing right. How does this organism function? Because once you understand behavior, you can predict it. Brain Phase 3, building the right team. No survival mission succeeds alone. Enter Ryland Grace, played by Ryan Gosling. He's not chosen for bravery. He's chosen for knowledge. This is a key survival principle. Backhand index pointing right skill, strength. The mission requires scientific thinking, problem-solving ability, adaptability. Classical building Phase 4, centralized command. The mission is led by Stratt, portrayed by Sandra Hüller. From a strategy perspective, this is critical. Too many decision-makers equals delay. So control is centralized. Fast decisions. No bureaucracy. In survival scenarios, speed is everything. Rocket Phase 5, resource allocation. Next step: build the mission. This includes designing the spacecraft, securing fuel, astrophage, training the crew. Resources are limited, so priorities must be clear. Backhand index pointing right. What is essential? Backhand index pointing right. What can be sacrificed? DNA Phase 6, risk calculation. Every mission has risks, but survival strategy is about backhand index pointing right, calculated risk, not blind risk. The mission planners know the journey is dangerous. The crew may not survive. Failure is possible. Yet they proceed, because doing nothing guarantees extinction. Ice Cube Phase 7, long-term survival planning. The journey will take years, so they implement hibernation systems, automated ship controls, self-sustaining life support. This ensures survival over time, because survival is not just about reaching the goal. It's about enduring the journey. Brain Phase 8, memory loss, a strategic factor. When Grace wakes up, he has no memory. From a survival standpoint, this is a major risk, but also an opportunity. Without fear of the mission, he can focus purely on problem-solving. His brain becomes backhand index pointing right, a tool, not a victim of fear. Magnifying glass tilted left Phase 9, situation assessment. First rule after waking up: assess your environment. Grace checks oxygen levels, food supply, ship condition. This is basic survival protocol. Backhand index pointing right, know your situation before acting. Warning Phase 10, handling unexpected loss. He discovers his crewmates are dead. This creates a crisis. Loss of manpower, increased workload, psychological pressure. Survival strategy here: Backhand index pointing right, adapt immediately. No time for emotional breakdown. Action comes first. Alien Phase 11. Encounter with unknown intelligence. Grace encounters an alien, Rocky. Now the strategy changes. From solo survival to cooperative survival. This is a key principle. Backhand index pointing right allies increase survival probability. Handshake Phase 12. Building trust. Trust is risky, but necessary. Grace and Rocky share information, exchange resources, solve problems together. This accelerates progress. Because two perspectives, 1. Microscope Phase 13. Problem-solving loop. Their strategy follows a loop. Identify problem. Test hypothesis. Analyze results. Adjust approach. This is scientific survival. Not guessing, but testing. High voltage Phase 14. Finding the weakness. They discover. Astrophage has a vulnerability. This is the turning point. Because every threat, no matter how powerful, has a weakness. Direct hit Phase 15. Mission execution. Now comes execution. Develop solution. Test it. Prepare for delivery. Strategy shifts from backhand index pointing right learning to backhand index pointing right acting. Balance scale Phase 16. Critical decision point. Grace faces the ultimate decision. Save Earth. Save Rocky's species. From a pure strategy perspective, saving Earth is logical. But survival is not just logic. It includes backhand index pointing right values. Collision Phase 17. Adaptive strategy shift. Grace changes the plan. This is advanced survival thinking. Backhand index pointing right adapt when new variables appear. He chooses to help Rocky first. Because long-term survival may depend on cooperation. Milky Way Phase 18. Survival through sacrifice. Sacrifice becomes part of the strategy. Not failure, but calculated choice. Grace understands. Backhand index pointing right survival is not always about self-preservation. Brain Phase 19. Mental resilience. Throughout the mission, mental strength is critical. Isolation, pressure, fear. Yet grace continues. Because survival is as much psychological as it is physical. Shooting Star Phase 20. Redefining success. At the end, success is not what was originally planned. He doesn't return home, but he survives. He helps another species survive. This introduces a new definition. Backhand index pointing right success equals impact, not outcome. Performing arts final strategic lessons. Small Blue Diamond 1. Understand the threat. You cannot survive what you don't understand. Small Blue Diamond 2. Adapt quickly. Situations change. Strategy must evolve. Small Blue Diamond 3. Build alliances. Survival improves with cooperation. Small Blue Diamond 4. Accept sacrifice. Not everything can be saved. Small Blue Diamond 5. Stay mentally strong. The mind is the most important survival tool. Clapperboard final thought. Project Hail Mary is more than a story. It's a survival manual. Because one day, humanity might face a crisis like this. And when that day comes, survival won't depend on luck. It will depend on strategy.
Now we explain. hidden symbolism, metaphors, and deeper meanings you missed. What if everything you saw in this movie wasn't just happening on the surface? What if the sun wasn't just a star? What if space wasn't just empty? What if the entire story was actually a metaphor for something much deeper? Because sometimes the real story is hidden beneath the story. And today, we're not just explaining Project Hail Mary, we're decoding it. Sun with Face Chapter 1. The sun as a symbol of life. In the film, the sun is dying. But symbolically, the sun represents life itself. Energy, warmth, stability. When the sun begins to fade, it mirrors something deeper. Backhand index pointing right, the fragility of existence. It reminds us that even the most constant things in life are not permanent. Microbe Chapter 2. Astrophage, the invisible threat. Astrophage is not just a microorganism. It represents unseen dangers, things that grow silently, spread unnoticed, destroy gradually. This can symbolize climate change, pandemics, hidden societal problems. The idea is simple. The biggest threats are often the ones we don't see coming. Milky Way Chapter 3. Space as isolation. Space in the movie is vast, empty, and silent. But symbolically, it represents loneliness. Grace is physically alone, but this reflects emotional isolation. Even on Earth, people can feel just as alone. The emptiness of space mirrors. Backhand index pointing right, the emptiness within the human mind. Brain Chapter 4. Memory loss as identity crisis. When Ryland Grace, played by Ryan Gosling, wakes up without memory, it's not just a plot device. It symbolizes backhand index pointing right, loss of identity. Because without memory, we lose our past, our purpose, our sense of self. This reflects a deeper question. Backhand index pointing right, who are we without our experiences? Adult Briefcase Chapter 5. Eva Stratt as authority and control. Eva Stratt, portrayed by Sandra Hüller, is more than a leader. She symbolizes backhand index pointing right, absolute control. Her decisions represent power without limits, logic over emotion, survival over morality. She is not just a character. She is the embodiment of utilitarian thinking. Alien Chapter 6. Rocky, the other that isn't different. Rocky, the alien, represents something powerful. Backhand index pointing right, the unknown. At first, he is strange, different, unfamiliar. But over time, he becomes relatable. This symbolizes backhand index pointing right, fear of the unknown is often irrational. Because once we understand something, it stops being alien. Musical Notes Chapter 7. Communication beyond language. Grace and Rocky communicate through sound and science. Symbolically, this represents backhand index pointing right, universal connection. It suggests that language is not the only way to connect. Understanding goes beyond words. This is a metaphor for human relationships, where true connection is deeper than communication. Balance Scale Chapter 8. The Two Worlds, Earth versus Alien Planet. The film presents two dying worlds. Earth, Rocky's planet. Symbolically, they represent shared vulnerability. No matter how different we are, we all face death, struggle, survival. This removes the idea of us versus them and replaces it with backhand index pointing right, we are all the same. Counterclockwise arrows button Chapter 9. The Journey as Transformation. The mission is not just physical. It's symbolic of backhand index pointing right personal transformation. Grace starts as afraid, avoidant, self-doubting, and becomes brave, responsible, selfless. The journey through space represents the journey within. Test Tube Chapter 10, Science as Faith. Interestingly, science in this film acts like religion. It provides answers, hope, direction. Scientists trust data, the same way people trust belief systems. This creates a symbolic parallel. Backhand index pointing right science equals modern faith. Broken Heart Chapter 11, Sacrifice as Meaning. When grace chooses to sacrifice, it symbolizes backhand index pointing right the highest form of meaning, giving up something valuable for something greater. This reflects a universal truth. Backhand index pointing right meaning often comes from sacrifice. Shooting Star Chapter 12, Not Returning Home. Grace never returns to Earth. Symbolically, this represents backhand index pointing right letting go of the past. Sometimes, growth requires leaving behind what we know, even if it means never going back. Person in Lotus Position Chapter 13, Acceptance of Reality. At the end, Grace accepts his situation. This symbolizes backhand index pointing right inner peace, not because everything is perfect, but because he understands his purpose. Performing Arts Chapter 14, Humanity Beyond Humans. One of the deepest symbolic ideas. Backhand index pointing right humanity is not limited to humans. Rocky shows empathy, intelligence, friendship. This suggests backhand index pointing right humanity is defined by behavior, not biology. Chapter 15, The Mirror Effect. Every element in the film reflects something about us. The sun, life. Astrophage, hidden threats. Space, isolation. Rocky, the unknown. The entire story acts like a mirror, showing us ourselves. Clapperboard final symbolic message. Project Hail Mary is not just about saving the world. It's about understanding it, because beneath the science, beneath the mission, there's a deeper truth. Backhand index pointing right life is fragile. Backhand index pointing right connection is powerful. Backhand index pointing right meaning is created. Now it's time to explain dark theory, hidden truth, and alternate interpretations. What if everything you saw wasn't the full truth? What if the mission wasn't as heroic as it seemed? What if the ending was not a happy one, but something much darker? Because sometimes the truth of a story is hidden in what it doesn't show. Today, we're diving into a theory that changes everything you think you know about Project Hail Mary. New Moon Chapter 1: The Illusion of a Heroic Mission. On the surface, the story is simple. Humanity is dying. A mission is launched. A man tries to save the world. But let's question that. Was the mission truly about saving everyone? Or was it about saving just enough? Because history shows, when resources are limited, not everyone gets saved. Adult Rocket Chapter 2: Was Ryland Grace chosen or used? Ryland Grace, played by Ryan Gosling, is presented as the key to humanity's survival. But look closer. He didn't volunteer. He was forced. This raises a disturbing possibility. Backhand index pointing right: he wasn't chosen because he was the best. Backhand index pointing right: he was chosen because he was expendable. A man with knowledge, but no power. Adult Briefcase Chapter 3: Eva Stratt, Savior or Manipulator? Eva Stratt, portrayed by Sandra Hüller, is seen as humanity's leader. But what if she was controlling more than we realize? She had unlimited authority, full control over information, the power to decide who lives and dies. So the question is, backhand index pointing right, did she tell the full truth, or only what was necessary? Chart Decreasing Chapter 4: The Hidden Plan B. Here's a dark theory. What if the mission to Tau Ceti was not humanity's only plan? What if there were backup plans on Earth, underground bunkers, selected survivors, controlled populations? In this scenario, Grace's mission becomes something else. Backhand index pointing right: a distraction. Backhand index pointing right: a last hope, but not the only one. Brain Chapter 5: Memory Loss, Accident or Design. Grace wakes up with no memory. We are told it's a side effect. But what if it was intentional? Think about it. A man sent on a suicidal mission might hesitate, might panic, might refuse to act. But a man with no memory has no fear of what he agreed to. Backhand index pointing right: no guilt. Backhand index pointing right: no doubt. Backhand index pointing right: no resistance. This turns memory loss into a control mechanism. Coffin Chapter 6: The Dead Crew, a warning sign. 2 crewmates die. We are told it's due to biological limitations. But what if that's not the full story? Possibility. They were not expected to survive. The mission was designed for one person. Why? Because fewer survivors equals fewer complications. This suggests, backhand index pointing right, the mission was never meant to bring anyone back. Alien Chapter 7: Rocky, real or symbolic? Now comes the most controversial theory. What if Rocky is not real? What if he is a projection, a creation of Grace's mind? Let's examine. Grace is completely alone, under extreme stress, facing isolation and fear. The human brain can create, backhand index pointing right, imaginary companions. Backhand index pointing right, emotional coping mechanisms. In this interpretation, Rocky represents, backhand index pointing right, Grace's need for connection. Puzzle Piece Chapter 8: The Perfect Companion. Notice something interesting. Rocky is intelligent, cooperative, loyal, emotionally supportive, almost too perfect. What if Rocky is not an alien, but an idealized companion created by Grace's subconscious? Counterclockwise Arrows Button Chapter 9: The Convenient Solutions. Every major breakthrough happens after Rocky appears. Language solved. Science advanced. Problem resolved. This raises suspicion. Backhand index pointing right. Are these discoveries real? Backhand index pointing right, or is Grace convincing himself that he can succeed? Balance Scale Chapter 10. The Final Choice, Reality or Illusion. Grace chooses to save Rocky's species. But if Rocky is not real, then what does this choice mean? It could represent backhand index pointing right, letting go of Earth. Backhand index pointing right, accepting isolation. Backhand index pointing right, creating purpose in a meaningless situation. In other words, the choice is not external. It's internal. Milky Way Chapter 11. The Ending Reinterpreted. At the end, Grace survives, but never returns home. In the original view, this is bittersweet, but in the dark theory, it becomes tragic. He is alone, forever, and everything else is a story he tells himself to survive. Brain Chapter 12. Psychological Survival Mechanism. Humans cannot handle complete isolation, so the brain adapts. It creates meaning, companionship, purpose. Rocky could be all three. Not real, but necessary. Globe Showing Europe Africa Chapter 13. Earth's Fate. Unknown Truth. We never truly see Earth being saved. We assume it. But what if the mission failed? What if humanity didn't survive? And Grace is the last human alive? Black Circle Chapter 14. The Darkest Interpretation. Combine everything. Forced mission, memory manipulation, dead crew, possible hallucination, unknown outcome, and you get a chilling conclusion. Backhand index pointing right. The story might not be about saving humanity. Backhand index pointing right. It might be about one man trying not to lose his mind. Performing Arts Thematic Analysis. Dark Theory. Small Blue Diamond. Reality versus perception. What is real and what is created by the mind? Small Blue Diamond. Control versus freedom. Was Grace ever truly in control? Small Blue Diamond. Survival versus sanity. Is survival meaningful without mental stability? Clapperboard. Final Thought. Project Hail Mary can be seen in two ways. Backhand index pointing right. A hopeful story of science and friendship. Backhand index pointing right, or a dark tale of isolation and illusion. And the truth is, we may never know which one is real. Clapperboard. Now it's time to full psychological breakdown of Ryland Grace. Mind, fear, transformation. What kind of man wakes up alone in space, with no memory, surrounded by death, and still manages to save the world? Is he a hero, or is he just a man, forced into becoming one? Because the truth is, the biggest battle in Project Hail Mary is not happening in space. It's happening inside the mind of one person. This is the psychological journey of Ryland Grace. Brain Chapter 1. The Mind Before the Mission. Before everything. Before space. Before the crisis. Ryland Grace, played by Ryan Gosling, is not a hero. He is avoidant, risk-averse, emotionally withdrawn. He chooses safety over challenge, teaching children instead of facing the world. Why? because deep down, he fears failure. Fearful Face Chapter 2. Fear as the core personality. Grace's entire personality is built around fear. Not physical fear, but psychological fear. Fear of responsibility. Fear of being wrong. Fear of consequences. This creates a pattern. Backhand index pointing right, avoid, escape, hide. This is known in psychology as avoidance behavior. Puzzle Piece Chapter 3. Identity collapse. When Grace wakes up without memory, his personality is erased. No past. No identity. No fear history. This creates a rare situation. Backhand index pointing right, a human mind, without its usual limitations. He becomes purely logical, highly focused, emotionally neutral. This is not the old Grace. This is a reset version. Magnifying glass tilted left, Chapter 4. Curiosity over fear. Without memory, fear disappears, and something else takes its place. Backhand index pointing right, curiosity. Grace begins exploring his environment, not panicking, not breaking down, just investigating. This shows something powerful. Backhand index pointing right, fear is learned. Backhand index pointing right, not inherent. Brain Chapter 5. Gradual memory return. As memories return, so does fear. But now, there's a conflict. Backhand index pointing right, logical mind versus emotional memory. This creates internal tension. He knows what he must do, but he remembers why he was afraid. Adult Briefcase Chapter 6. Trauma of being forced. One of the most important psychological events. He was forced into the mission by Eva Stratt, portrayed by Sandra Hüller. This creates loss of control, resentment, psychological resistance, because humans need one thing above all. Backhand index pointing right, control over their own life. Balance Scale Chapter 7. Learned helplessness. Initially, Grace feels trapped. No escape. No choice. This leads to a state similar to backhand index pointing right, learned helplessness, where a person believes, nothing I do matters, but something changes. Counterclockwise arrows button Chapter 8. Shift from victim to actor. As the mission progresses, Grace shifts from backhand index pointing right, victim, problem solver. He starts taking action, making decisions, solving challenges. This is a key psychological transformation. Backhand index pointing right, regaining agency. Alien Chapter 9. The role of Rocky in mental stability. When Rocky appears, everything changes, not just externally, but internally. Rocky provides companionship, validation, emotional support. This reduces backhand index pointing right, isolation stress, and improves backhand index pointing right, cognitive performance. Handshake Chapter 10. Social connection and brain function. Human brains are wired for connection. Without it, mental decline begins. With Rocky, Grace's brain functions better. Faster thinking, better decisions, emotional balance. This shows backhand index pointing right, connection is not optional. Backhand index pointing right, it's necessary for survival. Warning Chapter 11. Stress and decision-making. Throughout the mission, Grace faces extreme stress, but instead of breaking, he adapts. Why? Because backhand index pointing right, stress plus purpose equals strength. Without purpose, stress destroys. With purpose, stress transforms. Brain Chapter 12. Cognitive flexibility. Grace constantly adapts. New problems, new environments, new species. This requires backhand index pointing right cognitive flexibility, the ability to change thinking patterns. This is one of the highest forms of intelligence. Broken Heart Chapter 13. The fear returns fully. At the critical moment, all memories return, including fear. Now he remembers. He didn't want this. He was afraid. He tried to escape. This creates a final internal battle. Backhand index pointing right old self versus new self. Balance Scale Chapter 14. The Defining Choice. Grace faces the ultimate decision. Save Earth or save Rocky. This is not just a moral choice. It's a psychological one, because it defines backhand index pointing right who he has become. Collision Chapter 15. Transformation complete. He chooses sacrifice. This proves backhand index pointing right he is no longer the old Grace. The man who avoided responsibility now embraces it. The man who feared consequences now accepts them. Shooting Star Chapter 16. Acceptance and Inner Peace. At the end, Grace is no longer conflicted. No fear, no doubt, because he has backhand index pointing right accepted himself. This is the final stage of psychological growth. Performing arts psychological themes. Small blue diamond fear conditioning. Fear is learned and can be unlearned. Small blue diamond identity reconstruction. We can rebuild who we are. Small blue diamond purpose-driven mind. Purpose stabilizes the human mind. Brain final psychological conclusion. Ryland Grace is not special. He is human, and that's what makes his journey powerful. Because it shows. Backhand index pointing right anyone can change. Backhand index pointing right anyone can grow. Backhand index pointing right anyone can become more than they were. Clapperboard final thought. Project Hail Mary is not just about saving Earth. It's about saving yourself. From fear. From doubt. From limitation. Because the real mission is happening inside your mind. Clapperboard. Now human intelligence versus alien intelligence. Who is truly advanced? What makes a species intelligent? Is it technology? Is it knowledge? Or is it something deeper? Because in Project Hail Mary, humans are not the only intelligent beings. And for the first time, we are forced to ask a dangerous question. Backhand index pointing right, are we really the most advanced species? Or just the most confident one? Brain Chapter 1. Defining intelligence. Before comparing, we must define intelligence. Humans often measure intelligence through logic, language, technology, but this is a limited view. True intelligence includes adaptability, problem-solving, emotional understanding, and this is where things get interesting. Globe Showing Europe Africa Chapter 2. Human Intelligence. Strengths. Humans, represented by Ryland Grace, played by Ryan Gosling, have clear advantages. Small Blue Diamond 1. Abstract thinking. Humans can imagine things that don't exist. Small Blue Diamond 2. Emotional depth. We feel deeply, love, fear, empathy. Small blue diamond 3. Creativity. We create art, stories, innovation. These traits make humans unique. Warning Chapter 3. Human intelligence. Weaknesses. But intelligence is not perfect. Humans also suffer from bias, fear, emotional instability. These can lead to backhand index pointing right poor decisions, backhand index pointing right conflict, backhand index pointing right self-destruction. Sometimes, our intelligence works against us. Alien Chapter 4. Alien Intelligence. A New Standard. Now we meet Rocky, an alien, completely different, no human-like body, no familiar communication, yet highly intelligent. This forces us to expand our definition. Microscope Chapter 5. Rocky's Cognitive Strength. Rocky demonstrates. Small blue diamond 1. Pure logic. He processes information without emotional interference. Small blue diamond 2. Precision. His calculations are accurate and efficient. Small blue diamond 3. Focus. No distraction. No hesitation. This represents backhand index pointing right optimized intelligence. Puzzle piece Chapter 6. Different biology, different mind. Rocky's intelligence is shaped by his environment. He doesn't rely on vision like humans, sound like humans. He perceives the world differently. This shows backhand index pointing right intelligence is not universal. Backhand index pointing right, it adapts to conditions. Handshake Chapter 7. Communication barrier. At first, Grace and Rocky cannot understand each other. Different languages, different senses, but they find a way through mathematics, patterns, sound frequencies. This proves backhand index pointing right intelligence can connect, even without shared language. Balance Scale Chapter 8. Logic versus emotion. Here's the key difference. Humans, emotional, intuitive, sometimes irrational. Rocky, logical, consistent, emotionally stable. So the question becomes, backhand index pointing right, which is better? Brain Chapter 9. Emotional intelligence. Humans have something Rocky lacks. Backhand index pointing right emotional intelligence. Grace understands trust, friendship, sacrifice. These are not purely logical concepts, yet they are essential. Collision Chapter 10. Combined intelligence. When Grace and Rocky work together, something powerful happens. Backhand index pointing right intelligence evolves. Human emotion plus alien logic equals backhand index pointing right perfect balance. This creates better decisions, faster solutions, deeper understanding. Counterclockwise arrows button Chapter 11. Learning from each other. Both characters grow. Grace learns discipline, precision, logical thinking. Rocky learns trust, cooperation, emotional value. This exchange proves backhand index pointing right intelligence is not fixed. Backhand index pointing right, it can be improved. Warning Chapter 12. Limitations of both species. Neither is perfect. Humans fail because too emotional, fear-driven. Rocky's species may fail because too logical, lacking emotional insight. This shows backhand index pointing right balance is necessary. Milky Way Chapter 13. Intelligence and Survival. At the end, survival depends on both. Logic alone cannot solve everything. Emotion alone cannot solve everything, but together, they create the best chance. DNA Chapter 14, Redefining Advanced. So who is more advanced? Humans or Rocky's species? The answer is neither, because advancement is not about superiority. It's about backhand index pointing right adaptation, backhand index pointing right cooperation, backhand index pointing right growth. Shooting Star Chapter 15, The Future of Intelligence. The story hints at a future where different species work together, sharing knowledge, expanding understanding. This is the next level of intelligence. Backhand index pointing right collective intelligence. Performing arts thematic analysis. Small blue diamond intelligence is relative. What seems advanced in one context may not be in another. Small blue diamond diversity creates strength. Different perspectives lead to better outcomes. Small blue diamond cooperation over competition. Working together beats working alone. Clapperboard final thought. Project Hail Mary challenges one of humanity's biggest assumptions. Backhand index pointing right that we are the smartest beings in existence, because intelligence is not about being the best. It's about becoming better. Now it's time to complete timeline explain from first discovery to final outcome. Mantelpiece clock phase 1. The first anomaly, year 0. Everything begins with a small observation. Scientists notice. Backhand index pointing right, the sun is slightly dimmer than expected. At first, it's ignored because the change is minimal. But over time, the data becomes consistent, and that's when concern begins. Microscope phase 2. Scientific investigation begins. Global scientists start analyzing the anomaly. They collect solar radiation data, satellite observations, energy output measurements. The conclusion becomes unavoidable. Backhand index pointing right, the sun is losing energy. Not randomly, but systematically. Petri dish phase 3. Discovery of astrophage. The breakthrough comes when scientists identify backhand index pointing right, a microorganism feeding on solar energy. This organism, astrophage, is unlike anything seen before. It absorbs energy, reproduces rapidly, travels through space. This discovery changes everything. Globe showing Europe-Africa phase 4. Global awareness and panic. Once confirmed, the information spreads. Governments react. Media reports. Public panic begins. Because the implications are clear. Backhand index pointing right, Earth is heading toward extinction. Classical building phase 5. Formation of global authority. To handle the crisis, a centralized system is created. Led by Stratt, portrayed by Sandra Hüller. She is given unlimited authority, full control over resources, decision-making power. This marks a shift from backhand index pointing right normal governance to backhand index pointing right crisis control. Brain phase 6. Recruitment of key scientists. Experts from around the world are selected. Among them, Ryland Grace, played by Ryan Gosling. Initially, he is reluctant. He does not want to be involved. But circumstances force him into the project. Shooting Star phase 7. Discovery of Tau Ceti. Scientists observe another star system. Backhand index pointing right Tau Ceti. Unlike the Sun, it is not affected by astrophage. This becomes the key clue. Rocket Phase 8. Mission Planning. Project Hail Mary. A mission is designed. Backhand index pointing right travel to Tau Ceti. Backhand index pointing right study why it is unaffected. Backhand index pointing right find a solution. This mission is named Project Hail Mary because it is a last, desperate attempt. Gear Phase 9. Spacecraft Development. The spacecraft is built with advanced propulsion systems, astrophage-based fuel, hibernation technology. This phase requires massive resources, global cooperation, rapid innovation. Adult Rocket Phase 10. Crew Selection and Training. 3 astronauts are selected. They undergo scientific training, physical conditioning, mission simulations. Grace is included, despite his reluctance. Ice Cube Phase 11. Launch and Departure. The spacecraft launches. Humanity's hope leaves Earth. The crew enters hibernation. The journey begins. Warning Phase 12. Mid-journey crisis. During the journey, problems occur. Biological stress, system strain, environmental challenges. 2 crew members die. Only Grace survives. Brain Phase 13. Awakening without memory. Grace wakes up. No memory. No identity. He must understand his situation, reconstruct his mission, continue alone. Magnifying glass tilted left Phase 14. Self-discovery phase. Through investigation, he learns his name, his mission, the state of Earth. This phase is critical because knowledge equals direction. Alien Phase 15. First contact with alien life. Grace detects another spacecraft. He encounters Rocky, an alien from another star system. This changes the mission. Handshake Phase 16. Collaboration phase. Grace and Rocky share information, develop communication, work together. They discover. Backhand index pointing right, both their worlds are dying. Microscope Phase 17. Scientific breakthrough. Together, they identify. Backhand index pointing right, the weakness of astrophage. This is the turning point. From uncertainty to solution. High voltage Phase 18. Solution development. They create a method to destroy astrophage, restore star energy. The mission is now. Backhand index pointing right, executable. Balance scale Phase 19. The critical decision. Grace faces a choice. Return to Earth with the solution. Help Rocky save his species. This is the defining moment. Collision Phase 20. Change of plan. Grace decides. Backhand index pointing right to help Rocky first. This alters the timeline completely. Milky Way Phase 21. Execution of new mission. Grace assists Rocky, ensures his species' survival. This expands the mission beyond Earth. Globe showing Europe-Africa Phase 22. Earth's fate, implied outcome. The solution is eventually sent back. Earth is saved, or at least given a chance to survive. Shooting Star Phase 23. Grace's final state. Grace does not return. Instead, he remains in space, building a new life. Person in lotus position Phase 24. Resolution. The timeline ends with mission success, partial, personal sacrifice, new beginnings. Performing arts final timeline insight. The entire story follows a structure: discovery, crisis, action, transformation, resolution. Every phase connects. Nothing is random. Clapperboard final thought. Project Hail Mary is not just a story told out of order. It is a carefully structured timeline where every moment matters, because in the end, the fate of humanity depends on the sequence of events. Clapperboard. We explain scientific mistakes, unrealistic elements, and what the movie got wrong. Microscope Chapter 1. The myth of a star being eaten. The movie's central idea. Backhand index pointing right. A microorganism, astrophage, feeds on stars. Sounds fascinating. But here's the problem. Stars are not simple energy sources. They are massive nuclear reactors, operating at millions of degrees, with intense gravitational forces. For any organism to backhand index pointing right approach a star, backhand index pointing right survive its heat, backhand index pointing right absorb its energy, is beyond current scientific understanding. Even extremophiles on Earth would instantly be destroyed. Thermometer Chapter 2. Temperature impossibility. Astrophage survives near stars, but temperatures near the sun reach backhand index pointing right millions of degrees Celsius. No known material, not even advanced alloys, can survive that environment, so the idea of a biological organism existing there is extremely unlikely. High Voltage Chapter 3. Energy storage problem. In the film, astrophage stores enormous energy, enough to power a spacecraft. But in reality, energy storage has limits. Even the best batteries today store only a fraction of what is needed. If such an organism existed, it would violate known energy density limits. Rocket Chapter 4. Interstellar travel speed. The spacecraft travels to another star system in a relatively short time. But in real physics, backhand index pointing right, nothing can exceed the speed of light. Even approaching light speed requires infinite energy, theoretically, extreme engineering challenges. So while the movie explains propulsion, the practicality is still questionable. Ice Cube Chapter 5. Hibernation technology. The crew survives long-term travel using hibernation. But here's the reality. Backhand index pointing right human hibernation does not exist, yet. Scientists are researching it, but we cannot currently pause human metabolism safely. Wake up without damage. So this remains speculative. Brain Chapter 6. Memory loss accuracy. Ryland Grace, played by Ryan Gosling, wakes up with memory loss. While medically possible, the way it's shown is simplified. Real memory loss is often incomplete, can cause confusion, not clarity, affects learning ability. But Grace quickly regains full functionality, which is unlikely. Alien Chapter 7. Alien biology convenience. Rocky, the alien, is incredibly compatible with human interaction. But think about it. Different planet, different evolution, different chemistry. The chances of backhand index pointing right compatible communication, backhand index pointing right shared scientific understanding are extremely low. Yet the movie makes it seem natural. Musical notes Chapter 8. Instant communication. Grace and Rocky develop communication quickly, using sound and patterns. While creative, in reality, Backhand index pointing right. Building a shared language would take years, not days or weeks, because language involves culture, context, interpretation. Balance scale. Chapter 9. Decision-making speed. Throughout the film, major decisions are made rapidly. But in real-world science, backhand index pointing right complex problems require time, testing, verification, peer review. The movie compresses this process for storytelling purposes. Classical building. Chapter 10. Global cooperation unrealism. The film shows backhand index pointing right nations working together smoothly. But history suggests otherwise. In global crises, political conflict increases, resource competition rises, cooperation becomes difficult. So this level of unity is idealistic. DNA. Chapter 11. Biological adaptation speed. Astrophage adapts and functions perfectly across space, but evolution takes backhand index pointing right thousands to millions of years. The speed at which it operates is unrealistic. Globe showing Europe Africa. Chapter 12. Earth's response simplification. The movie simplifies economic collapse, social unrest, political instability. In reality, a crisis like this would cause backhand index pointing right massive chaos, backhand index pointing right global conflict, backhand index pointing right system breakdown. But the film focuses more on the mission. Adult briefcase. Chapter 13. Absolute authority problem. Eva Stratt, portrayed by Sandra Hüller, is given unlimited power. In reality, this would face political resistance, legal challenges, public opposition. Absolute authority is rarely accepted globally. Brain. Chapter 14. Psychological stability. Grace remains mentally stable despite isolation, trauma, extreme pressure. But real humans would likely experience backhand index pointing right anxiety, backhand index pointing right depression, backhand index pointing right cognitive decline. The film underplays this aspect. Milky Way. Chapter 15. Convenient discoveries. Many breakthroughs happen at the right time. This is known as backhand index pointing right narrative convenience. In reality, science involves failure, repetition, uncertainty, not smooth progress. Performing arts final analysis. Does this mean the movie is bad? No. It means backhand index pointing right. It balances science with storytelling. It uses real concepts, but simplifies them for narrative impact. Clapperboard final thought. Project Hail Mary is not 100% scientifically accurate, but it doesn't need to be, because its goal is not to be perfect science, but believable fiction. And in that, it succeeds. Clapperboard. Now ultimate conclusion, full story meaning, big message and why this story matters. At the end of everything, after the science, after the mission, after the sacrifice, one question remains. Backhand index pointing right. What was the point of it all? Was it about saving Earth? Was it about survival? Or was it about something deeper? Something that goes beyond science, beyond space, and touches the very core of what it means to exist? Because Project Hail Mary is not just a story. It's a message. And today, we're uncovering its ultimate meaning. Globe showing Europe Africa. Chapter 1. The story was never just about Earth. On the surface, the story is about saving Earth. a dying sun, a desperate mission, a race against time. But if you look deeper, you realize something important. Backhand index pointing right, Earth is just the setting. Backhand index pointing right, humanity is the subject. The real story is not about a planet. It's about people. Brain chapter, the journey of one human mind. At the center of everything is one person, Ryland Grace, played by Ryan Gosling. He starts as afraid, avoidant, ordinary, and ends as brave, responsible, transformed. This is not just character development, it's a representation of human potential. Counterclockwise arrows button chapter 3, From Fear to Purpose. Grace's journey follows a universal path. Backhand index pointing right, fear, struggle, choice, transformation. This is the same path every human faces in life. We all avoid responsibility, fear failure, doubt ourselves. But the story shows backhand index pointing right, change is possible. Alien chapter 4, The True Meaning of Rocky. Rocky is not just an alien. He represents backhand index pointing right, connection beyond difference. Different species, different biology, different worlds. Yet, they understand each other. This sends a powerful message. Backhand index pointing right, differences do not divide us. Backhand index pointing right, they complete us. Handshake chapter 5, Cooperation over survival. At one point, the mission becomes a choice. Save your own species, or help another. And Grace chooses cooperation. This changes the entire meaning of the story. Because it shows backhand index pointing right, survival alone is not enough. Backhand index pointing right, humanity is defined by empathy. Balance scale chapter 6, The Moral Core of the Story. The biggest lesson is not scientific. It's moral. The story asks, backhand index pointing right, what would you choose? Self-preservation or sacrifice? Because, in the end, our choices define us more than our abilities. Milky Way chapter 7, Humanity Beyond Earth. Grace never returns home. Yet, he continues living, teaching, learning, connecting. This shows something profound. Backhand index pointing right, humanity is not tied to a place. Backhand index pointing right, it is carried within us. Even in a different world, he remains human. DNA chapter 8, Science as Hope. Throughout the story, science is not cold or mechanical. It is hope, survival, progress. It represents humanity's ability to backhand index pointing right, understand the unknown. Backhand index pointing right, solve the impossible. Person in Lotus Position chapter 9, Acceptance of Reality. Grace does not get a perfect ending. He loses Earth. He loses his past. But he gains something else. Backhand index pointing right, meaning. And that's more powerful than any victory. Broken Heart chapter 10, The Beauty of Sacrifice. The story does not glorify success. It glorifies sacrifice. Because true greatness is not about backhand index pointing right, what you gain, but about backhand index pointing right, what you are willing to give up. Shooting Star chapter 11, The Bigger Message. When you put everything together, the story delivers one core message. Backhand index pointing right, life is not about survival alone. Backhand index pointing right, it is about connection, choice, and purpose. Chapter 12, A Reflection of Humanity. Every element in the story reflects us. The crisis, our fears. The mission, our struggles. The choices, our morality. The story becomes a mirror, showing us who we are. Brain Chapter 13. Why this story matters today. This is not just fiction. It relates to real life, global crises, climate challenges, human conflict. It reminds us, backhand index pointing right, we face problems together. Backhand index pointing right and we solve them together. Globe showing Europe-Africa Chapter 14. The future of humanity. The story suggests a future where humans collaborate, differences are embraced, knowledge is shared. This is not just hope. It's a possibility. Performing Arts Chapter 15. Final interpretation. So what is Project Hail Mary really about? Not just science, not just space. It's about backhand index pointing right, becoming better than who we are today. Clapperboard final conclusion. In the end, the mission was not just to save Earth. It was to prove something. Backhand index pointing right that even in the face of extinction, backhand index pointing right, humanity can choose compassion. And that choice is what makes us human. Clapperboard OUTRO, YouTube style. Grand ending. If you watched this entire journey, from script 1 to script 14, then you didn't just watch a movie explanation. You experienced a story from 14 completely different perspectives. So if this series blew your mind exploding head, don't forget to like, thumbs up, share, and subscribe bell. Because more cinematic journeys are coming. Until then, remember, backhand index pointing right, the universe is vast. Backhand index pointing right, life is fragile. Backhand index pointing right, but meaning is something we create. White heavy check mark.